Good morning, folks. And here is an article from Bounding Into Comics about Marina Sirtis and her tweets regarding what happened to Texas this week. And if you don't know what happened to Texas, they got hit by about 2 winter storms. So all kinds of ice and snow hit Texas and destroyed a lot of infrastructure and building property. So they were without power, they were without clean water, they were without natural gas, and everyone was throwing blame around. But it really just comes down to the state not being prepared for this kind of weather. It's kind of weird in Texas. And that's understandable. Now, people say a lot of strange things when they're on Twitter. They're sort of unhinged, as it were. And that's especially true for the rich and famous, or those in power, or those who have a big audience. They like to throw it around. And I guess Marina Sirtis is no different. Let's see what she has to say. Don't get me wrong, my heart bleeds for what Texans are going through right now, but the mean girl in me says you get the government you deserve, and they have voted Republican across the board for the past 20 years. You're like, okay, what does a winter storm have anything to do with voting Republican? Does this have to do with getting energy and clean water and proper thermally insulated homes or water frozen protected homes? I don't think so. I mean, if there was more snow in Texas, I think they would have prepared for that. It would have been naturally inclined to build houses certain ways, or to insulate pipes certain ways, et cetera, et cetera. I know people have been pointing to electricity power grids and power generation and this and that. Like, sure, but that has nothing to do with the government. That has everything to do with the companies that actually made those infrastructures and weren't prepared. And again, I wouldn't blame them, because there was no reason to be prepared, because they weren't expecting for something like this. And then she replied, because other people are like, whoa. People are suffering because of a total lack of preparedness by the Republicans in Texas. I'm like, what do you mean? How do the Republican lawmakers, whether you're talking about the state level or the local level or federal level, how do they cause weather, or to be unprepared for weather? That's like saying, well, we weren't prepared for a natural disaster. We weren't expecting, all this snow it never happened. So why would we prepare for something that wouldn't happen? My words are not making these people suffer. The politicians are. Why is she blaming politicians for the weather? Now, if we want to talk about federal subsidies to certain infrastructures, then we could say, we could look at the federal government. And that's more than just Texas. That's the country voting on subsidies for certain kinds of power, or certain kinds of roads, or certain kinds of this or that, depending on the state, because some states can override those. And I'm not an expert on that kind of law. But why would you blame the politicians? Whether you voted this or that way, the weather will still come and still knock out power and freeze homes and other such things. I mean, you must understand that, Marina. I mean, it's the weather. People are suffering because it's freezing. They can't get clean water. They can't get heat. I mean, how is that the Republicans or the Democrats' fault? How is that anything to do with government? I don't know. And here we go. I love how you're putting words in my mouth. Where did I say people deserve to die? I was making a point that the Republicans in the state legislature have screwed you royally for over 20 years. Thank you. Okay. How so, Marina? In what regard? What did they do? If people have been voting a certain way for 20 years, they must have liked what they were getting. It couldn't have been that bad. What exactly are they getting screwed over by? Is it the fact they don't have taxes or less taxes than other states? I think they would rather like that. What exactly is it, Marina? I'm curious, because clearly something's been going on in your life that you have information to share. That in this catastrophe, you want to start kicking people when they're down. Now, you could make the case for certain kinds of laws specific to a state. We could talk about certain cities have very high levels of gun violence or assault death based off strict gun laws. And you could point the finger at those because those are direct cause and relationships. And we've seen that throughout the country for decades. Why certain states, certain cities in certain states, because of strict gun laws, have more assault and violent deaths. We can't do that very well with just saying Republicans in Texas and the weather. That doesn't make sense. There's no there's no causal link to anything. So I'm not sure what she's getting at here. I reread my tweet to make sure I didn't say that Texans deserve to die. But they are dying, or there has been deaths. There's been massive property damage. And I don't see how you blame how the government has anything to do with that. It's the weather. Unless she has some weird, crazy idea that, burning fossil fuels for 20 years, and that's correlated directly to Republicans in state senate or any laws made by municipal and state level. I don't know. I don't think she's that smart, and I don't think she's that stupid either. But what do I know about Marina Sirtis? Guys, I hope everyone in Texas is keeping warm, and you're not listening to people like this who obviously don't care for you or who put politics ahead of everything else. Thanks for listening. Have yourself a great day.